Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
I have something here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm holding in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers. It is from the archives of rushlimbaugh.com. I mean, my website. December 2nd, 2014. What, about 14 months ago? Jeb Bush. To win presidency, you have to run against the base. We have here, greetings, my friends, and welcome, Rush Limbaugh, almost hyperventilating right now. There is so much to try to squeeze into 3 hours today, and I don't think I could do it all justice. I mean, I could squeeze it all in, but some of it would just be scant few seconds of mention just to qualify that I talked about it. There is so much roiling out there and so much effervescing out there. So just hang in there. We'll get to every bit of it we can. It's why the program is 3 hours long. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. We'll be talking to you, of course, as the program unfolds. The mother of all see I told you so moments. By the way, there are two postmortems today on the Jeb Bush campaign and what went wrong with it. One's in the Washington Post. It prints out to 7 pages. There's another one in the Politico. It prints out to 5 pages. Both of them pretty much say the same thing. And if I could synthesize it, if I had to synthesize it down, it would be the Republican establishment and the establishment consultants class raised over $100 million, believing in an old paradigm that all it took was money. The message, that could come later. The candidate, yeah, that was somewhat important, but we can't use his last name. They went into this knowing that there was fatigue in the population for the Bush family and fatigue for the Clinton name as well, in terms of Republican vote, and they did it anyway. And they went out and they raised over $100 million for the super PAC and whatever they raised for the campaign itself. And they've got zilch to show for it. And as these people are quoted in interviews, it sounds like they're from the Stone Age. This is the establishment. These are the people with access to all the donors. These are the people who can put their hands on that kind of money, and they had no idea what to do with it. They had no idea what they were doing, all the while thinking they were the only ones who knew what they were doing. And neither of these pieces are hit pieces per se. I mean, they're mostly retrospectives and postmortems, and both contain highlights I want to share with you. But here it is, December 2014, from my website. We have a Jeb Bush audio soundbite. I said, let's see. It's last night in Washington, the Wall Street Journal CEO Council. It's an invitation-only event featuring some of the nation's most powerful CEOs. Former Florida Governor Jeb Bush spoke, and this is what he said. Remember this? I don't have the soundbite. I'm going to quote what he said. I don't know if I would be a good candidate or a bad one. I kind of know how a Republican can win, whether it's me or somebody else. And it has to be much more uplifting, much more positive, much more willing to, to be practical now in Washington. Lose the primary to win the general without violating your principles. And there it was. Lose the primary to win the general. So we embarked on a crusade to define that. And it didn't take long. We all figured out what it meant because eventually they said so. They wanted to win the Republican primary for Jeb Bush without securing a majority of votes support from the base, i.e., the conservative grassroots of the party. They set out to do that, and they thought they could do it with money. They thought they could do it with money, strategy, and message. But both of these postmortems make it clear that even before they started, they had polling data that told them not to do Jeb Bush. There was nothing personally against Jeb that anybody had. It's just the Republican base was tired and wanted to move on from Bush's. They knew this. They had every bit of polling data they could have had that told them, don't do this, don't go into it, don't start raising the money, you're going to waste it, and they did it anyway. And what becomes perfectly clear is that a bunch of people were in this for themselves, and how out of touch they are and were within their own party and where the country is headed. Nothing that you don't know. So I'm not saying this is earth-shattering stuff, except that it kind of is when you see the depths to which everything was misunderstood, miscalculated, or actively known and nevertheless stubbornly fought against to absolutely no avail. So Jeb Bush is out. And this is creating an entirely new paradigm. Now, folks, I went through a lot of mainstream media over the weekend and this morning. And there's a theme out there. And you might have heard it bandied about in any number of places. You've heard it bandied about in the Republican establishment. You've heard it bandied about in the campaign, certain sectors. You've heard media people talk about it. And that is that Donald Trump cannot win a general election. He just can't. Why, his negatives are way too high. It would be the absolute worst thing the Republican Party could do. Who's telling us this? Once again, our quote-unquote friends on the left. I went through story after story after story of how scared to death they are of Trump. A Harvard professorette actually has a piece today on this is how Hitler did it. Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. The United States is about to become Nazi Germany while nobody is looking. This is how it happened, she says. She's a professor at Harvard, and any number of other left-wing rags, websites, papers, you name it. For somebody or a group of people who think that beating Trump would be one of the easiest things they've ever had to do, they sure as heck are scared of him. And once again, the two don't go together. If you really think Trump is easy, if you really think beating Trump is the best option you could have if you're a Democrat, then wouldn't you want to be promoting him? Wouldn't you want to be talking positively? Wouldn't you be trying to secure his primary victory and nomination on the Republican side? I mean, the people writing this caustic stuff about Trump, I mean, there's some on the right, as you know, the mainstream Republicans, but I'm talking specifically now about people on the left who they're never going to vote for Trump. Why spend all this energy on how rotten and dangerous Trump is? Well, no, there are possible answers. These are all establishment people. Trump's an outsider, doesn't matter. Republican, Democrat, they don't like outsiders. They got to trash anybody trying to upset their world. That's understandable. But I think this is more than that. I think there's a genuine fear out there that Trump can win. I think there's a genuine fear, at least that's what I'm interpreting here, that he can beat Hillary Clinton. And furthermore, I think that these people think that about Marco Rubio, too. And I believe they think it about Ted Cruz. I think they believe Hillary Clinton is vulnerable. Which would take us into an entire discussion of what happened in Nevada over the weekend. Memo to Bernie Sanders. As far as the Democrat National Committee is concerned, you are still a bum. And Bernie, it's over. Even Hillary is running around out there now saying, we have to be more than just what we're going to give people. Grab audio soundbite number 20, Saturday night, Las Vegas, at Clinton campaign headquarters. Hillary addressing supporters after winning the Nevada caucuses.
I want you to think about this. It can't be just about what we're going to give to you. It has to be about what we're going to build together. Your generation is the most tolerant and connected our country has ever seen. In the days ahead, we will propose new ways for more Americans to get involved in national service and give back to our communities, because every one of us has a role to play in building the future we want.
Whoa. Bernie voters don't want to hear any of that. young millennials, they don't want to hear, what do you mean community service? What do you mean national service? What do you mean giving back? We want to know what you're going to give us. That's why we like Bernie. And Hillary's telling them there is no Santa Claus, even on the Democrat side. Also, folks, on this Apple and the Department of Justice and the FBI, you believe how big this has gotten? You know, people make fun of me, both here at the EIB network and in my personal life. They make fun of me over my passion for these devices, which is okay. People have made fun of me my whole life. They make fun of the fact that I really like them. They make fun of the fact that I'm an expert in these things. I've had people over the weekend sending me questions, comments about this argument between Apple and the FBI, what it means, terrorist phone. I've taken a lot of time to try to answer in great detail. I have expressed and tried to correct incorrect assumptions that people have. You know, it's amazing to me. Do you trust this government, folks? I don't. I don't trust the Obama administration. I never have trusted it. I don't trust it now. I won't trust it in the future. And most of you don't either. Most of you are very suspicious of it, and rightly so. You should be. This is an administration that doesn't really care about the Constitution much. It's trying to transform the country, erase or harm much and many of the things which have defined the greatness. And yet, when this episode comes along, everybody's all in for the government. Why? Because there's a terrorist involved. Yep, a terrorist phone. And so everybody throws or casts aside their distrust, their justified distrust, and throws all in because this phone belonged to a terrorist. To properly understand this situation, if you really want to know what this is about, you have to forget what kind of phone this is. iPhone 5C, 5S, 6S, 6 Plus. Forget it. It doesn't matter. You have to forget that a terrorist was involved, because that's not what this is really all about. You have to focus on one thing. Have you learned through all of this? Do you now realize, despite how many of you have been running around thinking that the NSA can track your every move, they can listen to every conversation, they can maybe even turn on your microphone or camera on your phone and monitor what you're saying because your life is so exciting, people at the NSA can't stop tracking you. Now, all of a sudden, you're learning the government cannot hack your phone. You have learned they cannot get into your phone. Do you want them to be able to? It's no more complicated than that. If you want them to be able to get into your phone, then support the FBI. Tell Apple to shut up and go away. But this is even more frustrating than that because of what we learned over the weekend. The terrorist's phone was not owned by the terrorist. Mr. Saeed Farouk Skyhook did not own his phone. San Bernardino County owned the phone. And it really, I don't mean to sound uppity or braggadocious here. I am fascinated by this tech because of how intricate and in many ways miraculous it is. I have spent a lot of time learning how to use these devices and learning what they're capable of, and how they might help me with my enjoyment of life, my productivity in life, workflows, and I want to know as much about them as I can. Most people don't, understandably. But here's the thing. Do you know that over the weekend we learned the FBI told San Bernardino to change the password on this phone? They thought that they would be able to find out information if they changed not the password, the Apple ID password. It's an absolute mess. Nobody knows what's going on or how to use these things. Here's the bottom line as I'm coming up to it on a break. Since San Bernardino County owned the phone, they could have had total control over it. If you are a business right now and you deploy iPhones, and I'm going to stick with iPhones in this case because that's what I know, but it's true of any others. If you're a small business, a corporation, and you provide phones for your employees and you own those phones, there is something called digital device management. It is software that allows you to control everything on their phone. You can put restrictions on what they can do with it. You can put restrictions on which apps work and which apps won't. In other words, you can stop them from using the phone personally. In addition to that, you, because you own the phone, have the ability to erase it at any time and find out what's on it. You can reset the passcode yourself as the owner of the phone. You can do it with 4 clicks. If the people in San Bernardino County had ever taken the time to find out what they could do with the phones that they were giving to employees, if they had just taken the time to have somebody come in and teach them, we wouldn't be here. Because there already is a way for the FBI in San Bernardino to get what they want in the circumstance where somebody's using a phone owned by a business. Digital device management. It's software. It's on servers. It costs about $4 per phone. And you have your IT manager research it and learn how to operate it. And you control and manage every phone that you deploy remotely. You don't have to have it in your possession to set up these restrictions. It just has to be signed in to the proper ID, Apple ID, and whatever other identification systems a company uses. And there is a specific opportunity for owners of phones in this, like San Bernardino County. They could have gone in the moment this incident happened. They could have locked Farouk and whoever out of the phone, anybody else, and only allowed themselves in. They could have gone in. They could have gotten every bit of data they wanted off that phone via a backup or a dump. They could have changed the password themselves. They could have done any number of these things. But they didn't know they could. They had no idea. And I'll wager that 95% of companies or organizations that give away phones or provide them for businesses have no clue about any of this. Anyway, sit tight, folks. We've just begun to set the table. We will continue in mere moments after this. I misspoke. I didn't mean DDM. I meant MDM, mobile device management. And in the case of Apple, it's free. Other software, $4 a phone is what it averages out. But with OS X server, which is simply what you would need, it's an app. It's a server operating system. You can deploy. All you have to do is set up the profiles for the phones that you want that are under your management. This is why you have an IT guy. It's why you hire one. Most people are not going to take the time to learn this. So hire an IT guy. IT guy does this, manages all the devices. But the point is, in a situation like this, or any disgruntled employee, or any circumstance where you, the employer, need to find out what's on your employee's phone, guess what? Because of mobile device software, there already is a legal backdoor on every phone under mobile device management. Apple doesn't need to add anything, and the FBI doesn't need to have Apple rewrite software for all of us, because what they want exists in a large number of circumstances, and did exist in this San Bernardino situation. But I'm sure the people at San Bernardino were clueless and had no idea. They even confused the passcode to unlock the phone and the password for the Apple ID connecting the phone to iCloud. They got confused over that. They literally had no idea what they were doing. It's stunning what they did not know. And we're back. Great to have you on the Excellence in Broadcasting Network, El Rushbo. We'll get back to this Apple FBI security encryption debate as the program unfolds. Of course, we're moving forward now in the Republican presidential primary. I think the Democrat thing is over, folks. It never really got started. You understand, Bernie Sanders was never going to win the nomination. He was never going to be permitted to win the nomination. Now, what kind of fallout there is on the Democrat side when Bernie's voters figure that out, they don't know that yet. Bernie's voters think he's still in this. They're starting to get the picture because they see how the superdelegates are being allotted. Nevada was Hillary's first real win, but it took shenanigans for this to happen. It took Harry Reid paying off the unions. It took Harry Reid paying off the unions to prevent caucusing in the casinos. Hillary Clinton has, with her vast fortune, helped Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz and the Democrat National Committee out of some debt. So the game is in. It's rigged, it's fixed, and Bernie has always been there, primarily as a foil, although Bernie doesn't know it. But Bernie has been there to create the illusion that Hillary can overcome a tough fight, that she can engage in a tough fight, that she can survive and thrive, that she's not worried about people coming at her, that she's not in a coronation, that she's prepared to roll up her sleeves and start duking it out with anybody. Bernie Sanders, she doesn't care who else. And then Bernie's going to be properly vanquished, and people are going to say, see, this woman is not to be trifled with. Bernie has been a foil all along, and he is now. Now, the foil may have gotten out of control. Bernie might have been doing a little bit better than they intended for him to do. But he was never going to get the Democrat nomination, and he's not going to get it now. All the actions on the Republican side, and the establishment is in a full-fledged panic. I mentioned last week and the week before and the week before that the establishment, whoever they are, but pretty much everybody opposed to Cruz and Trump, still is of the belief, and they were going into the weekend, that Trump's going to implode. Or something else. Something's going to happen and Trump's going to get out. It's the most amazing state of denial that I have seen. It has what has propelled them. They spent $100 million on the Bush camp. Against who? Against Trump? Trump's out getting free media. Do you realize everything's been tossed upside down here? Money is the mother's milk of politics. Here are all these other candidates trying to raise a few bucks here and a few bucks there to buy a couple of ads that might run on TV. Meanwhile, Donald Trump picks up the phone from Trump Tower and gets 10 minutes whenever he wants it on any network. And if he wants to go down the escalator where they have the camera set up in front of the waterfall, he can appear on camera whenever he wants. Realize the value of all the media time Trump is getting that he's not paying for. Yet everybody else is out there trying to raise it, dime by dime, dollar by dollar, go out and buy ads and so forth. It's amazing. And on the establishment side, they believed that's all it was going to take. $100 million and not a penny of it spent running against Democrats. How wasteful is that? Well, I know it's primary. The opponents right now are Republicans, but part of winning this thing is what you're going to do. How you're going to stop the people that put it in this mess, and that's the Democrats. And the Jeb campaign didn't even think to go there. It's mind-boggling to have that kind of money, and after all of this, nothing to show for it. And I'm reading stories where now they're going to hit up the same donors for Rubio. How much money do these people have left? How much do they have left that they actually want to spend? The same people that asked them for money for Jeb are now asking for money for Marco. The same people who've demonstrated they don't know how to spend it. Who've demonstrated they may not even be on the same playing field that Trump is on. They're being guided by tradition and age-old theory and policy, which has obviously surpassed them. And it has surpassed them simply because they appeared to be arrogant toward their own grassroots voters. Jeb Bush, December 2014, to win the presidency, you have to run against the base. You have to lose the primary to win the general. This never had a chance. But they thought it was brilliant. They thought this new technique was going to shock and awe everybody and sneak up on them and do an end run to the nomination without the support of the base. And when you get down to it, they never got above 4 or 5 points where it mattered. So now it's Panic City. Now what do? Well, now they got to coalesce around somebody. Now you've got people, Lindsey Graham's out there saying, you know what we need? We need a Rubio Kasich ticket. That's what we need. Right. You need a Rubio Kasich ticket. I'm sorry, you still don't have the answers. But they don't have the answers because they continue to live in denial. They still don't think that what's happening is happening. Let me amend that. What they don't believe that what's happening is real. They really don't. They still think Trump is not going to finish this. Somehow, some way, he's going to really say something that that's it. No more support, no more tolerance, and he's going to be gone. Or that some miracle is going to happen, and he's going to come along and get snookered and schlonged by the other candidates. So what I think they're really doing right now is planning how they are going to upend all of these results once they get to Cleveland and the convention. I would wager that the brain trust of the Republican establishment is even now trying to figure out how they can send this thing into a brokered convention, how they can come up with a way to basically ignore all the rules they wrote for this campaign, for this primary season, and this convention, and throw it open so that they, once again, the power brokers, can secure what they want in defiance of what the grassroots has expressed here. I mean, if I were them, that's what I would do. They obviously can't let go. They don't want to let go. This is their party. This is their establishment. This is their power base. This is their livelihood. This is their future. This is their standard of living, and this upstart here that they don't even think is a Republican to come along and shake all the hell, they're just going to sit by and let this happen. They've proven they don't know how to stop it. They've proven they don't know what they're up against. They've proven they do not have the slightest idea. And this has got to be a shock to them. They thought they're the experts, folks. They thought they were the only ones who knew how to do something like this, win a nomination for the presidency. They had all the power. They had all the money. They had all the inside games. They had all the tactics. They had all the power. They had the ability to pull the levers and maneuver this however they wanted, and nothing they did got them over 4 or 5 points. You look at the exit polling data coming out of South Carolina and some of the predictive polling for the future, the AP here, and you can just sense the disappointment. As this was written, a new AP poll finds registered Republicans and Republican-leaning voters put Trump at the top of the GOP field when it comes to which candidate best fits with their stand on the issues. They give Trump the best marks for competence and decisiveness. Far more Republicans than not say they would vote for Trump in the general election. 86% of Republican voters believe he can win in November. That gives him a 15 percentage point advantage over his nearest rival. Now, the conventional wisdom is that Trump can't win. His negatives are too high. It'd be an embarrassing landslide loss for the Republicans if Trump... It's over. Hillary will mop the floor. But 86% of Republican voters think he can win. And based on my reading of the drive-by media yesterday and today, they're scared to death he can win. While they write that he can't. While they write that he has no chance. While they write that he is the modern incarnation of Adolf Hitler. While they write that he would blow up the Constitution and do great damage to the country. And while they write that his supporters are clueless and do not even know who they're really supporting. They say there's no chance he can win. Well, then encourage him to go forward. If you're the Democrats and you're scared to death this guy and you don't want him to win and you don't believe he can, if you think that he is guaranteed to lose in a landslide, why don't you people on the left start encouraging every Republican primary voter to support him? Why not run the trick? Why not do the trick? If Trump is your guaranteed route to Hillary Clinton becoming president, why don't you promote him instead of writing all these pieces why you're so afraid of him? And why everybody else should be afraid of him. Predictions of Trump's inevitable political demise have arrived almost daily. This is back to the AP story. Since the brash real estate mogul jumped into the White House race. They came again after last weekend's Republican debate. when Trump aggressively went after Bush as president. They've concluded here in his comments on Bush, on 9/11, weapons of mass destruction, and none of that hurt him. They don't believe it. They can't understand it. They thought he would be finished after his introductory remarks back on the 16th of June. Meanwhile, in South Carolina, the Republican turnout was yet another record. The real news is Democrat turnout so far, wherever you go, the Iowa caucuses, New Hampshire, Nevada, Democrat turnout, you need a microscope to see it. It is that small. Republican turnout. Republican voters shattering South Carolina primary record Saturday night with almost all precincts reporting. 737,000 votes had been counted, 20% higher than 2012. By contrast, the Democrat turnout has tumbled from its 2008 records in all three contests, including Saturday in Nevada. 80,000 voters took place in Nevada, 33% fewer than in 2008. So to sum it up, Republican primary, South Carolina beat their previous record by 20%. The Democrat turnout was down by a third. Safe to say, Republican base is fired up. Despite the establishment's best efforts, the Republican base is fired up. And there were some crossover voters. Yes, I'm watching the clock. Stick with me here. In South Carolina, 24% of South Carolina primary voters were not Republican. So basically, 1/4 of those who voted Saturday for the Republican were not Republicans. Of that 24%, Trump got 33% of them. Rubio got 19%. Ted Cruz got 17%. And we will be back. And we are back. El Rushmo having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. So nearly 25% of the voters in the South Carolina primary were Democrats. Trump only got 33% of them. Now stop and think about it. You might say he made an appeal in that Saturday night debate. But Rubio and Cruz together got 17 and 36%. Trump got 33%. My point is that Rubio and Cruz haven't said anything that sounds like any Democrat says, and yet there was some Democrat crossover voting for them. Now, it could be they're trying to sabotage Trump. It could be a number of things. Or it could also be that there actually is some Democrat fallout for the Democrat position crossing over to join Republican. We don't know. It's too soon to say. To the phones, I got to get a phone in the first hour. Steve in Duluth, Georgia. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Oh, thanks, Rush. Megadittos.
You bet. Great to have you here.
I have a definitive, knowing what I know a little bit about the technology. My opinion is that Apple should develop a tool of some sort that would remedy this, and I think the best legal way to do it, as with any legal device you have today, you have to have a court order. You simply have to have a court order to obtain, for example, you just can't walk through my front door and get into my computer without a court order. Same thing with the phone. I believe they should develop technology to do that. Now, I will tell you that I'm affiliated with a company, and we do hundreds of thousands of repairs, refurbishment, warranty work, turnover of phones a month. So we see everything. And I will tell you, and this is not a well-known thing at all, even though you can delete to your heart's content, when I get that phone back, if you've taken it back for repair, refurbishment, or whatever, even if you go into the store, for example, at your favorite cellular store, and you decide to try a new phone, and within the 15-day or 30-day period you don't like it, you take it back, that phone comes the same route as if it were broke. And I can go into that phone, even though presumptively you've taken away all the information. It's not true. I can get to it. I can look at it. I can see the pictures. I can see the text. I can see the numbers. And it's my job, oh, by the way, from the manufacturer, whatever that manufacturer might be.
Wait a minute now. You're telling me the phone has been wiped. You can still get the pictures from.
Yep.
Well, then, if that's true, then why is the FBI even messing around with Apple? Why don't you just go in there and get what's on the phone?
Well, good question. I will tell you that the iPhone is unique in several different ways with regards to the technology and the way they set up their access. The other Android phones are much easier to do this with, but being that it's a new Apple device and that sort of thing, there are several different ways, in my opinion, what I know, and I don't know. I'm so far away from.
Well, I'm running out of time. Let me answer my own question. The reason Apple doesn't go in and get the data that you claim is there, and on this phone it is, I dispute your notion that you can go get data like full photos and text and whatever from a phone that has been wiped and erased and basically reset up with factory defaults as brand new. Now, I know that people who may have done damage to the phone, you can maybe find bits of data from and get parts of their pictures back. But a phone that's actually been wiped, degaussed, cleaned up, factory defaults, you're out of luck. But the answer to the question, why doesn't the FBI just go on? Because there isn't a back door built in yet. And if somebody is forced to build one, it's going to end up on everybody's phone, not just this one. It's not no other way possible. I'm out of time. I'm too... And the FBI has a court order for this phone. Apple's ignoring it. That's what the fight's all about. Well, it's about more than that, but sadly, my friends, out of precious broadcast moments at this moment. But stay glued to where I know you can't move anywhere. You can't go anywhere. You're locked here. We'll be back and continue in mere moments. Right back we are. Rush Limbaugh, serving humanity, executing assigned host duties flawlessly, zero mistakes. Great to have you here. The telephone number is 800-282-2882, and the email address lrushbo@eibnet.com. It's very easy to confuse what's at stake in this fight between FBI and Apple. And it's very easy to get sidetracked on it. It's very easy to be manipulated, as it is, I guess, in most things. But this particularly lends itself because while everybody's accusing Apple of engagement, well, the DOJ, by the way, is accusing Apple of PR only. Have you heard their allegation? Apple's only resisting us to do a PR maneuver to try to show their customers that they really care about security. Apple doesn't really care about your security. They're just trying to do PR to help market and tell their device. And the truth here, if anybody's using marketing and PR, it's the FBI by choosing this phone to make this fight about. Yeah, it happens to be the phone of a dead terrorist. And the bottom line is, San Bernardino County had the ability on two different occasions to get anything off that phone that the FBI now claims it wants. The mechanisms were there. If anybody had just taken a moment to learn what they had. If anybody, this goes for any of you who give iPhones, and let's stick with iPhones since that's what this is about. I know it I just don't want to have to say smartphones and tablets every time I talk about this because we're not talking about it. This is an iPhone, so I'm going to stick with that. If you're a company that for business reasons provides phones for employees, you might want to look into mobile device management if you haven't. You might want to look into everything you can do regarding your employees' phones, the restrictions, the things that your employees cannot use those phones to do. You're in charge of that. You're in control of that. You can change the password on any of those phones anytime you want. You can freeze an employee out of his or her phone if you find a reason to. You can change the password. You can find out what's on that phone. Anybody that deploys phones for business purposes to a group of people, employees or what have you, and it doesn't have to be a business, it could be a nonprofit, but any place that happens to provide phones for their employees can set up profiles to manage these devices, including giving the owners, which is the company, access to them. San Bernardino County twice If anybody at the FBI or anybody at San Bernardino County knew what they could do, then we wouldn't even be here. And the other thing about this that continues to amaze me, we've had 7 years of the Obama administration, and everybody is rightfully suspicious of them. They have made enough moves on individual liberty. They don't like Amendment 2. They don't like religious freedom. They don't like when Congress doesn't do what they want, so they do executive orders. There's evidence upon evidence upon evidence of how this government abuses its power, whether it's privacy, whether it's security, whether it's statutory or whatever. But then along comes this incident and the magic words, terrorist phone. And everybody forgets all that and assumes that this government is clean and pure as the wind-driven snow and wouldn't do anything more than what they're asking us to do. And they don't want to do anything more than what they're telling us they want to do. And we've got to find out what's in that phone because there's terrorism and there's terrorists and there's refugees and they can be plotting against us and this phone could have that data on it. We've got to know, we got to know, we got to know. And that overrides everything. And people fall for it. You can understand it. Hook, line, and sinker. But that's not what this is about. If you really want to get down to brass tacks, why is this even an issue? Open borders. Why is this even an issue? Because this regime's making not a single effort to stop anybody. Yeah, they might be deporting here and there, but you know that they're accepting refugees from war-torn areas, and they are military-aged and able men. We have the illegal immigrant problem of the southern border. There are people coming into this country every day that we cannot count, that we cannot keep track of. And they're going out and getting phones. And so the way we got to keep track of them is to make sure that everybody's phone can be inspected whenever the FBI wants to. I mean, there's so many things here that we should fix first before we all just decide to give up our security. Look, folks, nobody elected Tim Cook. I understand this. Nobody elected Tim Cook to safeguard our privacy or security. That's ostensibly what we elect politicians to do. But when they won't do it, thank God Tim Cook will. It's the way I look at this. But all of this is based on my understanding of how these devices work. The FBI could have had what they want from this phone. And they could have gotten it in cooperation with Apple. And Apple would not have had, and by the way, there's another story going around that I need to blow to smithereens. You may have seen it, that Apple has on 70 previous occasions broken into phones at the request of the FBI to provide them information that they want in a criminal pursuit. That is not true. Apple has never broken into a locked phone for anybody. They have never broken into one of their devices that's locked for the FBI or anybody else. Now, there's certain data that you can get from a locked phone, that is before the passcode's entered, or the PIN, whatever you call it. But Apple has never helped anybody unlock one of their devices. If you don't know how to do it, if you've forgotten your PIN code, if you've forgotten your passcode, you're out of luck. You either have to find a way to reset it, and Apple has mechanisms for that, or if you're dead and the FBI wants your phone. Well, in this case, they could have gone to San Bernardino and said, do you have mobile device management on it? What's that? Okay, you don't. So, well, have you ever thought about maybe resetting your Apple ID password? Oh, that sounds like a good idea. No, bad idea. They did it anyway. They confused the difference in an Apple ID password and the phone passcode. It's just, I still like my safe analogy. What would you think? Forget that the phone's a phone. Think of it as a safe. And the FBI needs to get into Saeed Farouk's safe. The safe is in Saeed Farouk's house. But they can't crack the safe. Every time they try to move the combination, the safe doubles down and locks even further. So they go to the safe manufacturer. You need to get us the combination. to unlock that safe. The manufacturer, we didn't set the combination. The customer did. We don't have it. We know you can get into it, and we want you to get into it. We know you have a way to unlock every damn lock you've got, combination or not. Get in there and do it. We don't. The customer sets the lock and the combination. We know that you can do it. You better do it. And while you're at it, we want the combination for every safe you've ever made. In other words, we at the FBI want to be able to open any safe you have ever made. How many of you would go for that? Just change the device, but leave the circumstances the same. A phone is very personal, but so is a safe. But most people would, no way. So if you can't get into the safe, fine and dandy, fine. But no way would you support the government being able to tell the manufacturer to give them a way to unlock every safe they've ever made, which is what's being asked here. I don't care what anybody says, because it's very simple. I heard somebody on TV today, but it's a search warrant, Oh, they have, no, it's not a search warrant, because what the FBI is doing is asking Apple to make something that doesn't exist. A back door into every device. It doesn't exist. A law enforcement back door. Let me explain what this is. You have your phone. You have your passcode. You have your fingerprint, if that's what you use. But unbeknownst to you, if you go out and rob a 7-Eleven like the Gentle Giant, you're walking down the street and a cop comes along, and they need your phone to figure out what happened. What the FBI wants is a secret way that only they know to unlock your phone in ways you don't know exist, so they can get in there and find anything they want. That's what they want Apple to build. And Apple is saying, if you make us build that, and you say you want it for just this phone, the fact is we've built it. It exists. And you're going to have it. And you're going to share it with every other law enforcement unit that wants it. And before we're finished, 1 million people are going to have an access to this back door you want for just this one phone. And then somebody in law enforcement is going to sell it to a criminal family member. I mean, nobody's clean and pure as the wind-driven snow. Before you know it, access to this back door is going to be had by a lot of people. Even though it started out, we only want to make it available for this one phone. But once you make it, you make it. Once you create a secret way into every phone that you make, you've created a secret way. You can't just create a secret way into one. The secret way into one phone is that person's passcode. A secret way into every phone would be irrespective of what anybody's passcode is. There's another way in. You can't tailor it to device by device or chip to chip. You can make it or you don't. I mean, the same government, ladies and gentlemen, that had no clue how to easily gain access to Saeed Farouk's iPhone. There were 2 ways they could have gotten in this if they had the slightest idea what they were doing. Same people that want to trust that they can create a back door into all of these phones to access information, but only the FBI will use it in criminal purposes. Same government that can't figure out what to do about Hillary Clinton's illegal email server in which top secret information was being trafficked all over who knows where. Speaking of hacks, who knows who got what off of Hillary Clinton's email server. It goes on. Now, it's more intricate than that. You can take this into whatever level of detail you want. You can go there legally. You can go there technologically by explaining various aspects of the devices and how they work and how they're designed, and what the marketing purpose is of all this security and how Apple benefits and how you benefit, how customers benefit from it. But you really end up just being distracted when you go deep. Because it's not that complicated what's at stake here. It's not that complicated what's being asked. And it's not that complicated what is being defended. There's this thing called the All Writs Act. It's a 200-year-old statute that basically allows the government to go to businesses, say, you need to help us in extreme circumstances in finding bad guys. weeding out criminality. But it has never been used to force a company to make whatever it makes weaker, more vulnerable, which is what is being asked here of Apple. It's never been used that way. So, but see, on the other hand, I know Apple's going to lose this. I'm going to lose this. Apple's going to lose this. Because over here we have a terrorist phone. We have the United States government. We have a massive PR machine, Barack Hussein Obama and all that going out, and everybody on TV, the Democrats and the DOJ people saying, and we've already got people worried, sick about terrorists infiltrating the country. They're here. We know they're here because it's Zaid Farouk, Skyhook, and so forth. And the FBI, that phone, it's a key. It is a key to finding out maybe what else they had planned. It's a key to finding out who else knew what was going on. We can't afford not to get that information. That information is more important than any civil right or any civil liberty, and there'll be people that will fall for it. I know how this is going to end up going. I know in 30 states, Apple has protesters in the streets in 30 states for them, but just like I know that Bernie is not going to be the nominee. I know how this is going to turn out, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating to me. We'll be back. Sit tight. In fact, you could argue Jeb Bush is perfectly positioned to win the nomination now, because go back to December 2014. What did he say? It's right here. I got it right here. He said that it was going to, win the nomination, lose the primary to win the general without violating your principles. Well, he's lost primary, so I guess he's on the road to winning the general now. They did exactly what they set out to do at the Jeb Bush campaign, lose the primary, so now they're on to winning the general. They're perfectly positioned. They've succeeded with everything they set out to do. They spent $100 million to lose the primary. Next step, winning the general. They must have some secret up their sleeves that nobody can figure out here. But they are perfectly positioned. Here's Don in Chicago. Don, great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Rush, there's teenage kids in third world countries all over the world hacking into the most secure computers in the United States, whether it be the Department of Defense, the CIA, even the White House. And I'm kind of embarrassed that the FBI has to even ask for help. Where are the big brains that we hire working for all these government agencies? This is incompetence on display once again.
Okay, wait. Let's start at the beginning here. I know that there are all kinds of people trying to hack into all of these things you mentioned, and that there are teenagers. But what do you actually know about successful hacks? I know the Chi-Coms have probably successfully hacked Hillary's server, but Hillary's isn't protected. I mean, Hillary's server's probably been hacked by who knows who. But you said the DOD and other, like the Pentagon and so forth, what evidence do you have that they have successfully been hacked?
They've admitted it. The CIA admitted that their computers were hacked. The White House even admitted that their computers were hacked. What kind of information they got? But that's my point. You've got these kids that are out there, and somehow or another, they've got the brain power to do things that nobody else seems to be able to do.
Well, but
we don't have the brain power to stop.
Wait, there's one thing about all those. Those are all connected to a network somehow, somewhere. None of those systems that you're talking about. Well, none of the systems hacked or air-gapped, but an iPhone that's powered down, an iPhone that's not unlocked, may not even be connected to a network, meaning nobody can get into it without having physical access to it.
Rush, an engineer built it. There's got to be engineers that can be able to reverse technology and figure out a way. We went to the moon, Rush. I mean, for the FBI to admit that they are incompetent to the point where they can't take a problem and solve it, and then publicly let us know about it, doesn't give me a lot of confidence in our law enforcement agency.
Well, how about this? How about maybe this is all just a giant smokescreen? Maybe the FBI is already in that phone. They got everything off of it they want. And they're just lying about it and trying to make everybody think they can't get in when, as you say, they could crack anything. And all of this is smoke and mirrors to try to distract people or make them feel a little bit more comfortable than they should be, a little bit more secure than they really are. That the FBI's been in and gotten what they want out of that phone and are gone. And are now using the data somewhere.
I thought about that, but then I thought about this administration. And I thought, no, it's incompetent.
Okay, so here we are. This is Don in Chicago, who believes that somewhere out there, either a designer of the software at Apple, a designer of the hardware at Apple, an engineer somewhere, we've been to the moon. Don't tell him we can't get in this freaking phone. I don't believe it. We're the United States of America. We found Osama bin Laden. We can't get into an iPhone 5C, an actual cheap piece of whatever phone compared to what other kinds you can buy. Are you kidding me? That's what Don's saying. And then saying, but he believes it because this is a bunch of incompetent boobs at the Obama regime unable to get in. Whatever, they clearly are sending the signal they can't crack your phones. Whatever else is going on, they are telegraphing that. They can't get in unless Apple helps them. They cannot get in there unless you, the owner, or Apple helps them get in. And a lot of people are shocked, like old Don here at that. Hi, welcome back. Great to have you. Il Rushbo, having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. I bet Trump knows somebody could crack the phone. I bet Trump could do it. Even though he thinks Apple ought to do it, I bet Trump could do it. A lot of people think Trump could do it. Here is Pat in Houston. Pat, great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Yeah, hi, Rush. I sure appreciate the Shanklin entertainment while I waited. That was excellent. I was not quite a Trump supporter, but the man has me impressed. At the beginning of this, he stated that politicians are stupid and that he is smart. And then he's proceeded to run circles around Rubio and Cruz, who are both the smartest guys in the room, I thought. And, you know, the other politicians in the media have treated him as a clown, and they vastly underestimated him. But, you know, it's like Trump has counted on that and knew it was going to happen. To your stack of stuff, we've got a U.S. News and World Report today saying that at the beginning of the year, Trump had more salaried campaign employees than Cruz or Rubio. And so this guy, Trump, he's planned it all along. And I'm just really impressed at how smart of a campaign he has run against the guys who are supposed to be experienced.
Let me, you're onto something here. Let me take the occasion of your call here. And by the way, I want you to stand by. Robert B. Reich has just given Ted Cruz the best endorsement he could have had. I have it here. It's about 1 minute and 50 seconds. Robert B. Reich, the best thing could have ever happened to Ted Cruz, coming up in a moment. But I happen to think Trump has been planning this presidential run for years. As I look back, as I think back and remember things, times I've been with Trump, various little isolated things that he's said, done, this kind of thing. I actually think this has been in the works for a while. I don't know how long, a couple years, 3 maybe. About this bit that Trump says the standard, ordinary, operating politician today is stupid, hack, dumb, stupid, incompetent. Yeah, it's insulting. And a lot of people are put off by it. And even if it's true, you're not supposed to talk about people that way. And so, but he does. He's brash. But the caller here is right. Trump has all kinds of professional people that he has hired here. He has all kinds of professional strategists, analysts, campaign experts. I don't know, per se, if he has a consultant as we think of consultants. I think he probably is his own in this regard. But he is illustrating. Well, what is the point of politics? And I mean, okay, many answers to that. But one of the things you have to do to succeed in politics? Well, yeah, but you have to win, but you have to draw flies. You have to draw people. You have to make a connection with people. You have to go out there and you have to do whatever it takes, because that's how you win. Yeah, you have to win. Yeah, you have to raise money, but you do all that by connecting with people. You have to create an army of supporters. Now, here's Trump, a quote-unquote political neophyte, never done it before. In the words of the establishment, he's inexperienced, doesn't know what he's doing. We're the pros. The establishment cannot draw flies. Republican establishment candidates cannot draw a crowd. They cannot connect with the voters. They have blown it. So just how for people who think that Trump is somehow doing all this on a whim, or doing it and things are aligning and it's just coincidental that it's working. Pat's point is that there's much more than coincidence going on here. And it looks like Trump has a better understanding of what has to be done to draw a crowd and to hold the crowd and to expand the crowd than the political professionals, the people who have devoted their lives to it. And make no mistake, that ticks them off. Oh, do not misunderstand. Here you have this cadre of political professionals at all levels. You got professional analysts. You got professional strategists. You got professional consultants. You have professional advisors. You have professional lobbyists. You have professional suck-ups. You have professional yes men. You have professional everything. You're inside the Beltway, and you've got the best, the creme de la creme. And here comes a guy, a reality TV host, carnival barker, and he's running rings around you on your field. He's running rings around you in your business. Makes total sense that they would be flabbergasted, that they would be discombobulated, that they would be all out of sorts and not understanding what's hit them. Because there's an arrogance. Sometimes it attaches itself to years and years and years of unchallenged dominance or superiority. And it's clear that the professional political class is making a mess of things. By the way, I would be remiss if I didn't mention right now Fred Barnes. You know who Fred Barnes is? Fred Barnes, executive editor of the Weekly Standard, is a well-known and renowned conservative columnist. And he was, before Weekly Standard, where was he? Well, yeah, but he was a Fox News analyst, but that was after the Weekly Standard. The Weekly Standard... He used to guest host this program in the early days. Anyway, Fred Barnes is out with a piece that is predictable. It happens once or twice a month during election season. And that is that the fault for all of this, including the inescapable Republican defeat in November, the fault for all of this, the only explanation for Trump, the explanation for the failure of traditional Republican candidates and Jeb Bush is talk radio. We in talk radio have alienated you from your political professionals. We have alienated you from your political establishment, the seasoned veterans who are the experts and know how to win. Talk radio has irresponsibly driven a wedge between Republican voters and its own establishment and elected officials. And talk radio is therefore irresponsible and solely to blame for this. And it means that the Republican Party, Donald Trump, whoever it is destined to lose, once again, the presidency in November. You can make book on stories like this. You can make book on columns like this. Robert B. Reich produced a video. Robert B. Reich, a former contributor on the McNeil-Lara NewsHour, labor secretary for Bill Clinton, produced a YouTube video explaining why Ted Cruz is more dangerous than Donald Trump. They're both disasters. But Ted Cruz is an absolute horror. The worst possible thing that could happen to the United States of America.
4 reasons Ted Cruz is even more dangerous than Donald Trump. Number 1, Cruz is more fanatical. Now, Trump is a bully, but he doesn't hew to any sharp ideological line. Cruz is a fierce ideologue. He denies the existence of man-made climate change, rejects same-sex marriage, wants to abolish the Internal Revenue Service, believes the Second Amendment guarantees everyone a right to guns. He doesn't believe in a constitutional divide between church and state, favors the death penalty, rejects immigration reform, demands the repeal of Obamacare, and Cruz takes a strict originalist view of the meaning of the Constitution. Second, Cruz is a true believer. Donald Trump has no firm principles except making money, getting attention, and gaining power. But Cruz has spent much of his life embracing radical right economic and political views. Number 3, Cruz is more disciplined and strategic. Trump is all over the place, often winging it, saying whatever pops into his mind. Cruz hews to a clear script and a carefully crafted strategy. He plays the long game, as he's shown in Iowa. And fourth and finally, Cruz is a loner who's willing to destroy institutions. Trump has spent his career using the federal government and making friends with big shots, not Cruz. He's repeatedly led Republicans toward fiscal cliffs. In the fall of 2013, his opposition to Obamacare led in a significant way to the shutdown of the federal government. Both men would be disasters for America, but Ted Cruz would be the larger disaster.
That just may be the best endorsement Ted Cruz has received yet. Now, in that video, that's the audio, in that video, Labor Secretary, former Secretary Reich, is drawing on a whiteboard as though he's a professor in a classroom, which he never was a professor. He was, what's the word? He was never a full-fledged professor. He was... No, not adjunct. No. He was a, Dr. Soul's going to kill me, and the word's right on the tip of my tongue. It's a step down from professor. It's, it'll come to me during the break here. But anyway, he's illustrating what he's talking about on a whiteboard, with all kinds of diagrams, with people going over cliffs and stuff when he talks about that. Anyway, we've broken that up into the 4 reasons why Cruz will be an absolute disaster. Trump, Trump's a joke. Trump, we can work with it. Trump doesn't care. At the end of the day, Trump just wants to be famous. Whatever we have, he wants to be famous. He wants to hang with big shots. We can give him that. But this Cruz guy, now Cruz, that's somebody that would give us real problems. That's what Reich is saying, and we'll be back. Lecturer. Lecturer is the word I was using. Dr. Sowell told me that Robert B. Reich was never a full professor at Harvard or anywhere else. And by the way, I pronounce his name Reich because when he was on the NewsHour with Jim Lara, he'd come in there once or twice a week and do a 60-minute commentary, video commentary. And at the end of it, his signature sign-off was, and I am Robert B. Reich. It's okay. I've never heard it pronounced that way, but I get it. And as a nationally known mimic, in order to mimic somebody, you have to exaggerate them. One of my favorites, Jeb Bush. I'd have to say that they've accomplished exactly what they set out to do, folks. Let's go back. December 1st, 2014, in Washington, the Wall Street Journal CEO Council invitation-only event featuring Jeb Bush. Listen.
I don't know if I'd be a good candidate or a bad one. I kind of know how a Republican can win, whether it's me or somebody else, and it has to be much more uplifting, much more positive, much more willing to, to be practical now in Washington world, lose the primary to win the general without violating your principles.
I'd say mission accomplished. They have lost the primary, and now it's on to the general in ways we don't know. But remember now, you know why this might have sealed it back then, if Jeb ever had a chance. I don't know that he did. And I tell you, when you read these two postmortems, the Washington Post and Politico today, both of them are just devastating indictments of everybody behind the scenes in the Bush campaign and how much they missed. For example, they knew that the Republican primary electorate was not interested in another Bush this year. You know what their solution was? To call him Jeb with an exclamation point. Honest to Pete, folks. That was how they dealt with the realization that the Republican electorate was a little tired of Bushes. The Iraq War, all of that fallout, the election of Obama, it was just too much. The Republican primary electorate and the general electorate needed a break, but they wanted to run Bush because they wanted back in power. And they figured that they could manipulate and position Jeb Bush in such a way that he could win, but they had to do it by losing the primary, meaning they couldn't pander to the base. They don't like the base. The base embarrasses them, and that's what this comment here is really all about. I kind of know how a Republican can win. It has to be much more uplifting, much more positive, much more willing to be practical. That's, whether he knew it or not or knows it or not, that's a direct hit on the base. They're too mad. They're too angry. They're not positive. They're not cooperative. They're not willing to work with the other side. So Jeb's, I'll lose the primary to win the general. I never, ever knew how that was going to be possible, but they set out to do it, and the first half of it, they have achieved. They've had success. It cost them $100 million to lose the primary, and now it's on to the general. Here's Tom in Clearwater, Florida. You're next on the EIB network. Hello.
Rush.
Yay.
Long-time listener since '89.
Great to have, it's almost a lifer. Great to have you here.
Yeah, 95% of the time I agree with you, but this Apple thing, it's got me bonkers crazy. I mean,
Really?
I just don't understand what can be so important on your phone that people are going to die because I can't get into it. It just drives me nuts. What's on your phone that you're trying to hide?
You have to ask the FBI that. Oh, wait a minute. No, you're asking me, why do I care? Why don't I let the FBI in? Why am I so worried about what somebody would see on my phone? Is that what you're asking?
Exactly. And what do you hide? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well,
people could die, and you were worried about what's on your idiotic phone?
Well, see, the phone's not idiotic. The phone's an extent. Would you just let anybody in your house? The FBI shows up and come on in. They want to look for anything, maybe plant some evidence and say that it's yours, dummy. What do you have any problem with the FBI impounding your car?
They're going to plant evidence on your phone? I mean, this isn't bank robbery.
Are you kidding me? By the way, with as many laws that are out there, how many people are totally innocent anyway? How many laws are you breaking you don't even know? If they want to find you... This is what's dangerous about this to me. As somebody who has had this kind of privacy violated... This is, and publicized all over creation, this is what bothers me about it. We have callers with great questions on hold, such as, why do you think the media is going so easy on Trump? Now, that's an interesting question to me. And we got others. If you hang in there, we'll be back before you know it. Yeah, that's the I've got nothing to hide argument. What are you afraid? A guy asked me, what's on your phone you care so much about? Why not let him see it? What's the big deal? Yeah, the you got nothing to hide argument. That's... Well, then put your bank account information out there, sir, and let whoever wants in your house. And remember, sir, they don't have to find anything. All they've got to do is say they do. You know, politics is not about what is. Politics is about what it seems to be. Jury trials are not about guilt and innocent and fact and non-fact. Jury trials are what you can make the jury feel. Look at the O.J. trial. Criminal justice system, so much of life in America is not as cut and dried as Civics 101 makes you think it is. Something is innocent. Look, I think there's a philosophical statement that explains Trump. You know, everybody's breaking their back trying to figure Trump out, pulling their hair out. What is it? Simple. Very few people remember for very long what you say to them, but they never forget how you make them feel. Now, if you make people feel good and confident and safe and secure, it doesn't matter what you say. They're not going to remember it, but they'll remember how you make them feel. It works both ways. If they scare you, if they make you feel like you can't trust them, if they make you feel like then you lose them forever, no matter what they say to you. Politics is not about what is, it's about what seems to be. How do you think Democrats have gotten where they are? Democrats are all about emotion, not intellect, not words, not things, not what people say or think or remember or any of that. It's what the words make people feel. Like all these millennials want Bernie Sanders because he's going to give them stuff. That's all that matters. Don't stop to think what it means, how it's going to be paid for. It just feels good. So if somebody says, what do you got to hide? Well, if they're looking for you, it doesn't matter what you've got to hide. All they've got to do is tell somebody they found something. That's all it takes. What do things seem? So you don't care what's on your phone. Fine, let them look at your bank account. Let them look at the source of every dollar you have. Where did it come from? You think you haven't committed a crime? There are laws out there you don't even know exist. It all depends on whether they're looking for you or not. And even when they're not looking for you, if they see something or find something that facilitates something else they want to do, the right to privacy is not guaranteed in the Constitution. It is assumed in the Fourth Amendment on search and seizure, but it's not specifically spelled out. It's been something that has evolved in a legal sense. It's one of the things that concerns me about all this social media. I've said forever that you've got people out there vomiting everything there is about themselves. They want fame, so they're putting every picture of themselves they can find, embarrassing or not. They're divulging all kinds of personal information as teenagers and young adults, and 20 years from now, when they want to do something serious in their life, it's going to be findable, and who knows what somebody can do with it. Careers, futures can actually be destroyed with innuendo, depending on how big a target you become and so forth. Now, if you as a citizen are nothing more than a statistic and nobody knows who you are and nobody's going to care, and you think that isn't going to change, fine. But understand that it doesn't work that way for everybody. Anyway, folks, I have to tell you something. I'm sitting here, I'm fighting off pangs of guilt because there is so much here that I want to get to that I'm not going to be able to get to today. And it seems like this is happening each and every day. Now, you don't know what it is. If I never told you, then you wouldn't think anything's up. Like, if I don't play a record, you'll never really know. But, you can never get hurt by something you don't say. You can never be hurt by something you don't do. You can never be hurt by not playing a song. But if you play a record nobody likes and they tune out, then you're finished, at least for a while. There's so much here. And it's scatterbox. It's all over the place. Some of it's about the political races. Some of it's about Apple. There's one here that's just mind-boggling. For example, Brown University students. Quick, where's Brown University? You don't know where Brown University is? Providence. Rhode Island. Providence, Rhode Island, which is where visiting teams flying in to play the Patriots land and stay. They don't stay in Boston. They go to Providence. Little trivia for you there. Brown University students are complaining their homework is interfering with their activism. They are reportedly upset that the university wants them to keep up with their academics amid their protesting. From our buddies at Campus Reform, student activists at Brown University are complaining of emotional stress and poor grades after months of protesting, and they blame the school for insisting that they complete their coursework. There are people breaking down, dropping out of classes and failing classes because of activism work that they're taking on, said an undergraduate student going by the pseudonym David, told the Brown Daily Herald last week. My grades dropped dramatically, like my health completely changed. I lost weight. I'm on antidepressants and anti-anxiety pills like right now. And counselors called me. I had deans calling me to make sure I was okay. I can't do both. I can't be an activist and do my homework at the same time. More proof that liberalism is driving people insane. Literally driving them insane. I got an email. This is an excellent question. It's an excellent question. We're going to talk about Apple and security, encryption, and so forth. Dear Mr. Limbaugh, would you say at this moment the safest way to communicate without the government being able to easily capture it is text messaging? What if text messaging is also on your desktop? You know why this is a great question? Because text messaging is not instant messaging. Let me stick with Apple because that's what I know. People on Android, I don't know what they use. WhatsApp. I don't know what the messages program on Android is, but in Apple, it's iMessage. And when you're using that, it works like text, you think, but the bubbles are blue. Apple says, and the DOD and the CIA and everybody else has concurred, that those messages are encrypted front and back, meaning the only people who can read what you are sending is the person you're sending it to. And consequently, meaning if you don't have access to their phone while they're I mean, you're looking over their shoulder, you can read it. But only the phone's software decrypts each message as it's sent and received. Or if it's in a group. However, text messaging is an entirely different thing and is in no way secure anywhere anyhow. Text messaging on your iPhone is green bubbles, and those go through the phone company. And that's actually called texting, SMS, and MMS. But if you're texting blue bubbles, you're not texting. You are iMessaging, and it's encrypted. And you can iMessage on your desktop or your laptop if you open the program called iMessages, just like the program on your iPhone or iPad. And if you're signed in under the same Apple ID, it syncs to every device that you're running. Your iPad, your iPhone, your computer will all have the same identical messages, recipients, people you're chatting to. If your bubbles on your iPhone are green, then you're text messaging over cellular, and if the FBI or the government wants to find out what you've been texting, they have to go to your carrier. They're already hoovering up all that metadata of your phone calls, or maybe they stopped that recently. Yeah, that expired. But with a court order, a carrier will give up the data on your phone calls or on your texting. Bottom line, if you want encryption, blue bubbles, for those of you that use iPhones. Now, Apple has done some amazing things. A couple of software versions ago, system software versions ago, they introduced two things called handoff and extensibility. Basically what it means for this discussion, you can now, on your laptop or your desktop, send text messages over your cellular phone line as long as your iPhone is close by. So you can send text for people that don't have iPhones, and you do, and you want to message them, so that's green bubbles. You can text them on your laptop as long as your phone's in the same room. But now there's something new. It's called Wi-Fi calling. You know what this is? Wi-Fi calling is super cool. Wi-Fi on your phone will make cellular phone calls over your Wi-Fi network if you have a weak or non-existent cell signal. And the quality of those calls is high definition. It's incredible. It's better than FaceTime audio. To illustrate how this works, I was on EIB 1 back in January, 47,000 feet over the Pacific Ocean. I picked up my iPhone and I called my brother in Missouri. Not the sat phone on the plane, picked up my iPhone using the Wi-Fi network on the plane, and his caller ID had my cell phone number. He thought I was calling him, which I was. I was calling him on the phone. That's Wi-Fi calling. Now you want to add a new feature that AT&T has added called Number Sync. Add to that, you can now make a phone call from your laptop, from your iPad. Neither of those have cellular modems in them. You can make an actual cell phone call from your number on your laptop or your iPad over Wi-Fi if your phone is off. Encryption, I don't know. We're talking about the phone company, AT&T in this case. Verizon and T-Mobile have Wi-Fi calling. Number Sync is exclusive right now to AT&T, but the others are working on it. But the bottom line is, it wasn't that long ago you couldn't text people on your computer. You couldn't text people on your iPad. You needed a phone for it. But now you can use your laptop or your iPad. The beauty of this is you don't have to drop your iPad or laptop if somebody texts you and pick up your phone. You can continue it or answer it right there on your phone. Ditto phone calls. You can make a phone call from your iPad without touching your iPhone. You can make a phone call, a voice call from your computer, desktop or laptop, without touching your iPhone. Part of the Apple operating system. It's things like this that you'd be amazed the number of people I tell they have no clue. They have no idea. And it's not their fault. Apple doesn't advertise this stuff well. You really have to do what I do, read constantly about the latest and greatest in this stuff to know that this stuff's possible. Nobody knows about Number Sync unless you happen to run into it being described on the AT&T website. And frankly, how many people are going to end up there during the day? Right, Brian? Brian, why would I go to AT&T unless you have a billing problem? And even then, it's a whole different section of the website. You might not even see Number Sync there. But because I care about this stuff and I want to know everything and then some what these phones will do, that's why I learn it and I test it and it all works. Bottom line, encryption. Blue bubbles, you're cool. Green bubbles, no encryption, and anybody can get to it with a court order because it's phone company. It's not encrypted anyway. The phone company doesn't encrypt anything in those text messages. Just like don't encrypt your phone calls. But Blue Bubble iMessage is encrypted by software. Both ways it goes, sending and receiving. Hope that helps. Back after this. Don't go away. Yes, Wi-Fi calling also from your iPad or your laptop if they're on a Wi-Fi network. It's all related to your Apple ID, and you have to be running iOS 9.2 for any of this to work. And 9.2.1 is the current release version of the operating system. And the way you turn it on, you go to Settings, Phone, Wi-Fi calling, and turn it on. It's simple. And after you do that, then you'll have a chance to turn on Number Sync. It doesn't, it might say Number Sync, but what this is, Number Sync allows you to make phone calls from your iPad and your laptop over Wi-Fi when your phone is off or lost or in a different room. It's amazing stuff. Here's Abraham in Pembroke Pines, Florida. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Limbaugh.
You bet.
It's an honor to speak to you. I was wondering if maybe you could please opine on this hypothetical where maybe Bernie Sanders righteously wins the Democratic delegate count, and Hillary Clinton does a number on him and uses her superdelegates and takes it away from him.
Already happened.
And then he goes independent third party.
I don't see it. Bernie's 74. He likes walking. I think they would find a way to take care of Bernie if he decided to do that. That'd be instant death, political death for Hillary. That won't happen. Bernie's going to end up being a loyal soldier when this is all over. Bernie Sanders has never had a dime. He was a bum until he got his first paycheck at age 40. He's still a bum. They're going to take care of him. Bernie Sanders is going to have the life of Riley, which he's never had. It'll be somebody else's money. They'll take care of him. I can't see him going third party. I wish he would. Abraham, I would love it if he did. You ever stop to think of something? Speaking of third party, you ever notice that when Clintons are on the ballot, billionaires decide to run for office too? Just putting that out there. Here's Ken in Boston. Ken, great to have you on the program. Hello. Hey.
Thank you, brother, for being an inspiration to all of us out here.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Even in my confused
Here's my question. What is the chance the media is promoting Trump? And it doesn't need much, but they're promoting Trump because they believe they can destroy him come the general election. You saw what they did to Mitt Romney.
Wait. What is your question? Why do I think the media has gone easier on Trump?
Well, more than that, I believe they're promoting him because they think they can destroy him the same way they destroyed Mitt Romney with all his business dealings and everybody who got hurt with his 4 bankruptcies. I believe they destroyed Kylie Theory because they thought she would be a big challenge for
Maybe, but I don't think they're looking at Trump that way yet. Number one, these people all like Trump. He's been going on their TV networks and shows for years. Before he became a candidate, they never liked Romney. They hated Romney from the first moment they heard of his dad. They've never liked Romney. They're giving Trump a pass to the extent that they are, I think, because they're scared of him. And 2 things. They want the ratings he brings. I get it, folks. These people are not going to tick him off. They are not going to run the risk of getting on his bad side because they need him appearing. They need to be able to promote Trump appearances on their networks for ad revenue. That, by the way, is another reason why I think the networks are going to be interested in prolonging all of these primaries as long as they can for the ad revenue that's going to be coming in. But I would also posit, you were frowning at me, Mr. You think they're not being all that restrained with Trump? Well, I know the beat reports, like this woman here that I have comparing him to Hitler. That we're finding out now how Hitler did it with Trump. Yeah, some of the beat reports, but the TV people love the guy. They're fascinated by him. He's defying every definition of political gravity they've ever thought existed. They're mesmerized by the guy. They all want to be traveling with him. Wouldn't it be neat to be a rich guy like Trump? What do you think it's like to be Eric Trump, the son of a rich guy? Man, could I maybe just be a Trump for a day? I'd love to be a Trump for a day. Yeah. I'd be a rich guy just for a day. Travel with Trump on a Trump jet and see what that's like. And the Trump women, my God, look at the Trump women. They're all beautiful. Man, I would love to have a Trump babe too. Ooh. I get a little afraid of him at the same time. But if you want to know who the press really goes easy on, the names are Bill and Hillary Clinton. And that's really the way to ask that question. Why are they going so easy, and why do they always go so easy on Bill and Hillary Clinton? But Trump will get his when he's the nominee. Just like McCain did. It's in the cards, you'll see. I think there's something else, too, with these TV people and Trump. I think a lot of people, not all of them, but a bunch of TV people put him on television thinking he's making a fool of himself and thinking that he's making a fool of the GOP. So I think early on that's what the Republican establishment, I think, oh, let's hear more of this guy. He's just helping us left and right. He's digging his own grave here. I think a lot of the drive-bys think that Trump embarrasses himself and makes a fool of the GOP and his supporters every time he opens his mouth. And so they certainly want to amplify that as well. I mean, it runs the gamut. Like this piece, The Moment of Truth. We must stop Trump. Danielle Allen, political theorist at Harvard, contributing columnist, Washington Post. To understand the rise of Hitler and the spread of Nazism, I have generally relied on the German Jewish emigre philosopher Hannah Arendt and her arguments about the banality of evil. Somehow people can understand themselves as just doing their job, yet act as cogs in the wheel of a murderous machine. Arendt also offered a second answer in a small but powerful book called Men in Dark Times. And in this book, she described all those who thought that Hitler's rise was a terrible thing, but chose internal exile or staying invisible and out of the way as their strategy for coping with it. They knew evil was evil, but they too facilitated it by departing from the battlefield out of a sense of hopelessness. And so you see, Trump is Hitler. And a lot of people know it, but they don't want to get involved. So they're just backing off, and they're trying to blend into the invisible, hoping nobody ever comes for them or notices them. Watching Donald Trump's rise, I now understand. Leave aside whether a direct comparison of Trump to Hitler is accurate. That's not my point. My point, rather, is about how a demagogic opportunist can exploit a divided country. We must stop Trump. Why? He's going to lose? Danielle, all the polling data says that Hillary's going to mop the floor with him. He doesn't have a chance in the electability polls. They tell us his high disapproval numbers make it impossible for him to win the general election, Danielle. So what are you sweating here? You actually think he's going to talk people out of supporting gay marriage? You think he's going to talk people out of supporting whatever it is that you think is crucial? Is that what your fear is? You know, there's some fake tweets. This stuff is starting now. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Fake Trump tweets going around, such as, you want me to quote a Bible verse? Fine, I'll quote a Bible verse. Trump 2016. Give a man a fish, and he'll eat for a day. Deport him, and you won't have to feed him or his anchor babies ever again. Fake Trump tweets. Yeah, the Trump Bible, chapter 20, verse 16, Trump 2016. Now, it's not, Twitter has a blue check mark next to the real, if it's somebody, it's not the real Donald Trump, but the fake Trump tweets are starting now. And in this case, the fake Trump tweets, I mean, you could read that one and say, well, it's either pro-Trump, agree with Trump, or not, depends. My point is, they're scared to death out there in academia and in the drive-bys. They are scared to death, folks. All leftists are constantly scared because they know that the victories they have are really not solid. Their victories are the result of authoritarianism and bulliness. They're not the result of a majority of people agreeing with them. They know that the majority of this country is not for gay marriage. They know they've succeeded in bullying the country into it. And she's worried about how Trump is exploiting a divided nation. She's exploiting a divided nation. She and her leftist buddies, they're the ones dividing and then exploiting. They're the ones that are imposing their will on us, and it isn't happening democratically. They're just bullying everybody into shutting up. so that the left doesn't come after him. This is Stuart in Elizabeth, Colorado. Stuart, glad you called. Great to have you here.
Call, Rush. Appreciate that.
You bet.
Hey, I want to just share a few observations I have come up with concerning Trump. I mean, I appreciate what he's brought to the campaign and voicing things, but I basically have come to the conclusion he's like Obama, in that Obama always said, hope and change, but never revealed his plan. Trump is saying, we're going to win again, it'll be greater than ever before, but I don't see real substance. I think he slipped whenever he said I was for the mandate. I think he was showing his true heart, that he was for Obamacare. And all he said was, we're going to get rid of Obamacare and replace it with something better. I asked, with what? I also see him whenever he gets cornered. He kind of reminds me of the Penguin and Batman. He always don't rah, 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 rah. He just lashes out. He has no substance. And then another observation, actually, what he said was, he was asked about his tone and will you change? In essence, he said, oh, yeah, I can be whatever I need to be with whoever I'm with. I want someone who has some principle, who will stand all the time, constant. I see him basically more liberal. I equate him to Obama. He with a lot of words, and it appeals to people. All those words of win big and big, great, appeals to people. But I'm asking, where's the substance?
I think Make America Great Again is a little bit more substantive than hope and change. I think it has a little bit deeper meaning to people. It's certainly definitive or definable. But why do you think so many people, if you're right, and if all of this is a bunch of tricks, why are so many people falling for it, do you think?
Oh, I think the same thing with Obama. The terminology sounds great. It sounds great to me. I want America to be great again. I've traveled in different countries of the world, and I remember when Clinton was in, it was an embarrassment to be an American, practically.
Well, who are you for?
I am for Cruz.
You're for Cruz?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, with Cruz, you don't have any of those concerns, right? You know he's stable. He's got a rock-solid philosophy that you don't think he's going to waver on.
Yes.
He's principled, and you know the principles are conservative.
Yes.
And he's rolled up his sleeves. He's been in fights defending conservatism and trying to secure victories.
Yes.
So
and he's done it in Washington, where Cruz says, I'll make a deal. I know you got to work with people, but I'm concerned about how many deals he's going to make. I think people will be disappointed in the future if he's elected.
Well, you're not the first person to call here and utter the same thing. I've had people say, this hope and change business, Rush, it's just as dangerous as Make America Great Again and all these specifics. And what you're really saying, even though you didn't voice this, Obama ended up being an authoritarian. He ended up being supported as an authoritarian because his wacko base wanted that stuff done, i.e., they wanted conservatives humiliated and defeated and ticked off and mad and losing everything. And they didn't care how Obama did. If he has to do it with executive orders, fine and dandy. And what you're afraid of is that we've got people on our side who will be perfectly fine with our own version of an authoritarian as long as he's hammering those guys. And that troubles you. I think really the thing that you should focus on is why you're for Trump, for Cruz, because that's, I think, probably much more persuasive. If you're trying to change people's minds about Trump, tell them why you're for Cruz, because you're not going to talk a Trumpist out of it. And the reason you're not going to talk a Trumpist out of it is because they're feeling something really good, and they don't want to let go of that. Okay, Andrew, San Francisco, great to have you. Great to have you on the program, sir. Hello.
Hey, Rush. Hey, thanks for taking my call. I want to explain a situation that happened to my wife this past Saturday. She was traveling from San Francisco International Airport to the East Coast on United Airlines. And what happened was she was in the lineup, you know how you line up into the gate. And she, in a normal tone of voice, she was talking politics with fellow passengers, of course, a very big topic these days, naturally. So during the discussion, my wife called Hillary Clinton a bitch. And what happened was the gate agent heard that, She made a beeline right to my wife, pulled my wife out of the line, and denied her boarding because she called Hillary Clinton a bitch. We live in Nazi Germany. This is exactly the kind of behavior that I would expect in Nazi Germany.
You kidding me?
Absolutely. I am not kidding. I am absolutely and totally outraged and disgusted that United Airlines has employees that will conduct this. You cannot even have a political speech now in an airport without being pulled aside. She was denied boarding. She missed her flight. We had to rebook on another airline at very great expense, I might add. You can imagine, right, if you have to make a last-minute flight change, how much you're going to have to pay to do that.
Are you going to pursue this with United? You got witnesses, right?
Oh, United is very difficult to pursue, right? You call their 800 number and you're going to be on hold for 40, 50, 60 minutes, and you're going to talk to someone to take a reservation or to handle your lost baggage. They're not going to handle a legal, complaint on an 800 number. We haven't decided how or what what action that we're going to take in this case. But I'm actually calling to inform your listeners. You better watch out. You better not say that Hillary Clinton is a bitch. You better watch your speech because you know what? You may be denied boarding, and you can imagine what that's going to do to your travel plans,
Look,
right?
This does not surprise me. I mean, not like you think it might. These people on the left are the most intolerant people. This does not surprise me at all. There's no different trying to run a bakery out of business or trying to run a photo shop out of business. These people are into political correctness, which is speech censorship. It doesn't surprise me. Tell your wife, just say, B-I itch next time and you'll be safer. But that's next time. Some people are, I know, she shouldn't have been talking that way anyway. That's impolite to talk publicly. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean you get pulled from the flight. And by the way, be prepared for United to call here and deny this. I mean, this is, this. So, but anyway, Andrew, I appreciate that. I'm sure there'll be follow-up on this now. There's going to be denials left and right and requests for information, data. Andrew, you might want to talk to a lawyer about this. This is pain and suffering, added expense. Don't call an 800 number spending time on hold, or else go back out to the airport and ask for a supervisor. But anyway, I'm glad you got through with this. And I, for one, I just want to tell you, I'm not surprised, folks. I've been trying to warn people this kind of stuff's coming for years. By the way, Marco Rubio says that Mitt Romney is not going to endorse him anytime soon. Please don't think that. Rubio does not want anybody to think that Romney is going to endorse him. It's not going to happen, he says.